Well, thank you so much. It's fabulous to be back with you again for another year at Zebu Live, and I think the organisers are really doing a spectacular job of making sure that London and the UK is on the map. I always am starting off over the past few weeks, everything I speak about with a cough. I don't know why. I think it's a UK thing that this time of year I have managed to get myself a cold. But anyway, as we all do here, we struggle on with the weather and with the bugs. I went into Parliament in 2015, as well as leading up the cryptocurrency group. When I arrived in 2015, I was the first clinical psychologist to ever be elected to the UK Parliament. And I know that my constituents believed that our Parliament at Westminster needed a psychologist. And that's why I went back another 2 times up until May of this year. It's been such a privilege to be an MP in the Parliament and to have the opportunity to develop new skills. And so, as has been described, in 2022, we decided to look at the issue of cryptocurrency and digital assets. And it was really quite a new thing for us at that point, because when we did the research, I realised that there had been no debates whatsoever in the House of Commons at that point in time on the issue of cryptocurrency. So we started the APPG. What is an APPG? An all-party parliamentary group. There are hundreds of these groups, actually, from all different issues. There's a group on for people who like beer, for instance, whiskey, all sorts of different things, and different types of industry. So this was the very first group in the UK Parliament that was going to be focusing on cryptocurrency and digital assets. And at the time, we felt it was very, very important because we did the research. And I realised that although there had been no debates in the House of Commons at that point in time, at that point there were over 3 million people in the UK who were already engaged in this sector. So the people across the UK were, reaching out, striving, engaged in the sector well before the Parliament. They were ahead of us in that sense. So it was very, very important that we caught up and tried to understand the industry and tried to look at why this could give the UK a good opportunity. And at that time as well, the Prime Minister had suggested that the UK could become a hub of cryptocurrency. So it was very timeous in terms of setting up the group. However, aside from the population who were way ahead, there were so many misperceptions in the Parliament. So when I started to speak to MPs from across all of the different parties, because the all-party group covers MPs from a multitude of different parties and also members of the House of Lords, I found that most people didn't want to get engaged. There were so many perceptions. This is all a scam. The UK aren't going to be doing this. We don't need blockchain or Web3 or any of that kind of stuff. We're doing just fine with the system as it is. Then something quite pivotal happened, that we had the Children's Parliament, or Youth Parliament, come into the room to speak about issues that were important to them. And digitalisation was one of those key issues. So we had the children there, aged around about 12 up to 16, all in the room. We had the members of the Parliament from all the different parties. We had members of the House of Lords who had come into the room to hear from the Youth Parliament. And they were able to tell us, because one of the first questions that was actually asked was, put your hand up if you understand Web3. All the children's hands straight up into the air. Hardly any MPs, no members of the House of Lords had their hands in the air at that point. And I realised, wow, These people, young people in our country, are digitally native. This is important to them. It's not just about what's happening now, it's about skills and jobs of the future and making sure that we give them the opportunities to thrive in this new digital revolution that's arriving across the country. So, what did we do? We started with education. We worked for about 2 years, having sessions in the Parliament, discussing with the Youth Parliament as well as the MPs and the members of the House of Lords why this was important, why this sector needed engagement, why for consumer protection reasons we also needed to look at regulatory clarity, but also that regulatory clarity brings investment and business can then understand what's being asked of them and develop important startups and innovation in the UK. So it was all about trying to champion this aspiration of the UK becoming a crypto hub. We also tried to sort of develop a common language because people would come into the Parliament from industry who clearly hadn't engaged with MPs before, and they would bring hours worth of PowerPoint presentations that they wanted to tell them all of the ins and outs of different things. Then they were talking about CBDC. They would talk about DeFi. Then they would talk about fiat. And then we had questions, what are these people talking about? Isn't fiat a type of car? Are we not here to talk about cryptocurrency? So we had to kind of develop a common shared language and pitch the industry at the right level in the Parliament. We engaged with a lot of different use cases to try to evidence, because MPs were saying, well, yes, we understand what's happening, that this is becoming something that's developing in the UK as well as everywhere else. But what's the point of it? How does it make lives better for people? What are the use cases? I went out to visit an amazing organisation, Code Lab, who I'm engaged with now, and we visited the first tokenised property in London, which is amazing. I've also engaged with UNICEF and heard about how our international aid can be digitalised to make sure that it reaches the most vulnerable without so many intermediaries, perhaps saving our taxpayers' money. We brought in the digital minister from Ukraine, the deputy digital minister, in the middle of the conflict. I mean, he was on the screen and we could hear things happening in the background. And he was talking about, how pivotal this industry had been in reaching those people in need at the front line when traditional banking industries had not managed to continue to operate at that point in time, which was very pivotal. So through giving MPs a variety of different use cases, we began to build more and more interest in the group. And we were able to kind of evidence, alongside some of the partners that we have, we had the Stand With Crypto campaign in the Parliament, talking about how this has to be a whole of a UK approach and bringing innovators from Manchester. I reached out to the Scottish Parliament, and we have a group developing in the Scottish Parliament. I'm engaged with James, who's here from the Digital Commonwealth at the front there, and we're looking at linking with parliamentarians in the Commonwealth to try to help shape their education and engagement. And really, from this time, we thought, well, what are we achieving? There's interest in the Parliament, people are engaged, we know that we have more engagement. But a really great company as well called Greengage started to produce, and you can look it up, some research looking at digital parliamentarians. So I'm quite happy because in the latest one, before I stood down, I'm quite at the top of this, so I recommend you read it quite thoroughly. But we were able to evidence that from having no debates in our Parliament in 2022, then when you take it up to 2024, after having the all-party group up and running and doing all of this amazing work in conjunction with yourselves, that there had been almost 200 questions to the Minister about this sector. We'd had a number of ministerial statements. We'd had bills through the Parliament. We'd had debates on CBDC. We had debates on digitalisation and jobs of the future, which a debate that I was really pleased to lead. So we were actually helping to transcribe that education for MPs into informed discussion on the floor of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So I would say that even although I felt things were going very well, the most important thing was the evidence base also shows that there is utility in engaging from your sector to the all-party group in the Parliament. I stood down in May, and it had come to my notice that this is not just a phenomenon that's happening in the UK. This sector is global. It's developing, worldwide. We need to look at shared best practice and interoperability. So my next step has been to found and chair the Global Legislators Forum in Digital Assets, which brings MPs from a multitude of parliaments who were on the same journey as me, who perhaps didn't feel they had the support at the time it was developing years ago, but now they will have, because we're going to have a shared forum to discuss issues of interoperability, to up our education, because you're a fast-paced moving industry, things shift and change all of the time. And to make sure that we can bring leading legislators discussing these issues in each of the parliaments together with industry to keep ourselves on top of the game and ahead of the curve, because I don't want to see it happen again, that the Parliament falls behind where the public is on this progress. The first meeting of our forum will be in February. We have a dinner in the House of Lords, and if you're interested in that, come and speak to me. Then we're going to be in Brussels and Dubai, Singapore and the US. And I'm developing the Forum of Parliamentarians worldwide, so I'm also keen to link with James and our Commonwealth parliamentarians and really to support them to come to the fore. We heard from an event that I was at the Digital Commonwealth just a month ago about how important it is through the keynote speech of Baroness Scotland at that event that this agenda is progressed. So get involved with your APPGs. There are many now. We may have started the cryptocurrency one. There's a Web3 one that you can link into. There's a CBDC one that's up and running. The crypto and digital assets one will be up and running again soon, I'm sure, once they have a new chair in place. It's very important you get involved. Speak to your MP. Go out and meet them at their surgery. Tell them why this industry is so important for local jobs and for the work that you're developing and innovation in the UK. Please do engage. It's very, very important. And if you need to know anything else whatsoever, I know we're running slightly behind schedule today, please email me, get in touch. I'll be around for the rest of this afternoon, and make sure that together we continue to champion the innovation and aspiration of this industry, and particularly for those young people who came to our Parliament to say it was going to make a difference to their world and their future. Thank you.